So, Robert Roundtree,
Yes, Pete
what's
Sessa.
up, man? I know you from FloridaMarijuana.net,
Mhm.
right? So, is that the only thing that you're involved in, Florida? I know that you're involved in several other things. What are the other things that you're involved in?
No, I have the podcast, The Marijuana Solution.
Right.
It's on iTunes or Google and Spotify or themarijuanasolution.com.
Oh, which is actually a really good podcast. You have some really good
Thanks.
guests, you know.
Yeah, I try and keep the guests fairly consistent and really top quality, industry leaders, top policymakers.
There's always something breaking on it. There's always some sort of news that comes from it, which is a kind of a mark of a good podcast. Not that we're going to be breaking news or anything, but
Yeah, speaking of breaking news, I had Commissioner of Agriculture Nikki Fried on the show months prior, and she mentioned about cease and desist before it became news and hit the mainstream press. I'm also involved in a recruiting company with a partner, Aaron Bolt, called Career Extracts, and we do career fairs and direct placement services for the MMTCs to help them find hard-to-fill positions and find candidates for it. And I'm also a partner in Sunshine Cannabis, the first brand to be licensed by an MMTC in Florida, first Florida brand.
wow,
And we've got a couple products out. Gainesville Green just came out recently. That's where I'm from, my hometown. So we're real proud of that. Sunshine Kush, and we have some more in the pipeline coming out soon.
So that's actually what I have here in my True Pod. It's actually almost done. It's actually pretty much done. I'm going to have to re-up it. That's the Gainesville Green, which actually I enjoyed a lot. You could definitely feel that. I like I don't know what terpenes were in that. Actually, I do, because I was informed by Mr. Williams of the terpene profile, but before that, I thought I tasted a lot of limonene, but apparently it was more of, I think there was more pinene in it than, there were two pinenes, terpenes, but I enjoyed it a lot. I'm still enjoying it. I got to get one of those new green True Sticks, those short ones.
Yeah, get the shorty.
I got to get one of those, although
sure.
I don't want to make mine shorter than it needs to be. And I actually want to get a bigger vaporizer. I'm actually very, very, very confounded by the fact that no one has made a vaporizer with the little tracker on it that will track it with your cell phone when you lose it, because I don't know anybody that doesn't lose vaporizers. And nothing is worse than losing a vaporizer that has like a full gram in it or something that, and they make you, fuck the battery, but where's, I want that cart back, so having a tracker on there, how difficult could that be? The PAX one that they have at Liberty, the one that you shake and, and it turns it on and it connects to your phone. How difficult could it be to put a little GPS thing in there? I'd pay extra $20 for it,
For sure. You could probably even do it over Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, because it's a Bluetooth device.
I have one on my keys, or I had one on my keys that I used because I used to lose my keys all the time. And it found my keys at a movie theater, a bunch of different places. And it'll find them, whether you're, miles away, it'll find them. And then when you get close, it actually beeps, the closer you get. And so you can find them like in your house or something, So you can put those little tile things on like your remote control, stuff like that. But they're still kind of big. If they were like a sticker, you could stick it on. But build it into a vaporizer. I would. That's the one that I would use, because that's the one that I wouldn't lose.
Absolutely.
They can use that slogan even if they just make it.
Yeah, I mean, anybody out there that's looking for something to do, I think you just got a great idea.
And there's so many different vaporizer. I mean, if you'd seen like the Champ show and like
that's ridiculous.
There's like 20 different new vaporizers come out every year. They're all always trying to reinvent something, because you got to come out with a new model.
Yep.
Can't keep selling the old model, It's like the phone the vaporizer.
Yeah, I don't get the whole like device game. It seems like the majority of the devices are the same, just a little bit different design.
Well, what happens is they get knocked off. Is somebody comes out with the design, and then they're made in China, and then that factory makes, instead of 10,000, they make 20,000, and they sell them at half price to somebody else and a whole bunch of other people, and they start copying them and stuff. So unless you know really how to keep that from happening, which few companies know how to do that, you're kind of, you have only a certain amount of time before that happens and all the cheap ones start coming out and you got to come out with the next thing. But could you imagine if they made vaporizers that were actually designed to last a long time? Like, why would they do that? Just like a phone, they're not going to design it to last forever. They're going to design it to break soon, so you got to buy a new one. So
absolutely.
But that's all right because we have whole flower, so we don't need
That's
vaporizers. Right. We can use rolling papers like they did back in the day.
There we go. And if you buy the True Stick, they have lifetime warranty on it. So
you see, not a lot of people know about that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that
warranty.
I was actually really impressed about that. I did a little video about it because I was so excited when I heard about that, because here's the thing about vaporizers is they break, right? No matter what, you're going to drop it, something's going to happen. Actually, the True Sticks are the only ones that haven't broken because honestly, there's nothing really to break. It's just a battery and a magnet, So it's not like you're loading it and unloading it and twisting it. Whereas like the one that you use with the shatter and the crumble, I have one of those as well. That one gets hot, right? And what happens is it gets hot over and over and over and over and over again, right? And it's actually glued together. And when you start twisting it, because it'll get, when I use it, it's, sometimes I'll overload it. It'll get a little sticky and you kind of have to use a little force to twist it. What happens is that glue tends to break, right? And once that glue breaks, it's like, like the insides start coming out. And that's happened to me because I've had actually that model vaporizer before. But the cool part is you just walk in a True Leaf and they're like, oh yeah, here's a new one.
Yep.
And you don't have to there's no warranty card. There's no sending it in. You don't have to go online and like register it or anything. You just walk in and say, hey, look at what happened to and they give you a new one. And that's invaluable. I was so excited about that. I don't understand why more people don't take advantage of that. I think that's awesome.
Oh, absolutely. The no questions asked return policy on medicine and lifetime warranty on devices. I mean, the customer service there is pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is like if you could tell me other than the tracker, right? I think if you could tell me that the one other thing that would make me want a vaporizer would be an immediate replacement. The other thing about it is you don't have to mail it anywhere or try and get a replacement from the manufacturer. It's the place that you're already going anyway to get your medicine.
Yeah.
Right. So you're already in there. You're already picking stuff up, and you can get a new. I mean, I don't know. It's a win-win in my book, anyway. I get a little too excited about stuff like that.
No, I think it's a great thing. When I first found out, I was really excited because I had a dead battery in the car.
I can't remember who told me that. I think it was Victoria Walker mentioned that, and I said, why doesn't anybody know about that? I was like, we got to make more of a big deal about that, and that's why we made the video for it. Yep. I was like, there's definitely, people need to know about that because that's one of the things that people complain about is that vaporizers break or, it costs too much to get the vaporizers, and, for, $20, $25 and you get something that's going to last you forever.
Right.
I mean, you can't beat that.
No, it's pretty hard to beat.
So you said that you are involved in, I kind of lost count. I think it was 4 different initiatives, companies, about 4 of them.
3 companies.
3 companies?
Yeah. One company does the website and the podcast. Another company is a recruiting company. Then the third one is the Sunshine Cannabis brand. So
suffice to say you're heavily involved in the
Correct. I'm on
cannabis.
I've helped launch a couple nonprofits. I'm on the board of one. With Aaron Bolt, it's actually a information sharing analysis.
So what actually got you into this to start? Like, how did you get into, the cannabis space to start? Have you always been a kind of warrior? Were you born that way? I mean, I was born on 420, so I feel like I was born a kind of warrior. I had no choice in the matter. It just happened, just my destiny. So,
I started using cannabis at the age of about 11 years old. So
really?
I would say I've been a canyon warrior, not so much out of the closet my whole life, but pretty much my whole life. I've been consuming cannabis now for 27 years. And the reason why I got in was legalization movements were starting to pick up around the country. I had gone out to California a time or two and worked out there with a buddy of mine. But I had been kicked out of the Navy for cannabis use. I received other than honorable discharge, and that nearly killed me, set me down a horrible path of substance abuse and just really bad mental health issues. Eventually, my family conducted an intervention, and I cleaned up. And through that process and various run-ins with the law over cannabis, being robbed over an ounce of flower, getting brutally assaulted by the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, I just was really, really, really passionate about wanting to see the laws change. And I had a business that was fairly successful, which allowed me the ability to start to develop the first website, which was Florida Medical Marijuana Treatment Centers.com way back in the day. And I got involved by blogging, basically, and educating.
Mm.
Yeah, and then, did my fair share of going around to different meetings and local events.
Right.
But that's how I got involved, was the what became FloridaMarijuana.net.
Right. So you started there, and you said that you were in the Navy and you got discharged for cannabis use.
Correct.
And then that led you down.
That was a horrible path, because when you get kicked out of the Navy for other than honorable, and you're going through transitioning, they're basically telling you that your life is over, and you feel that way. I had to pay back my bonus. I broke the rules. I'm not asking for forgiveness.
Right.
I had to pay back my bonus. But they would tell us, you're never going to get a job. You're not going to be able to work at McDonald's. You won't be able to get, financial aid to go to school. Your life's screwed. You're really fucked up. So that's what kind of sent me down this horrible, bad downward spiral of depression. And I was taking pharmaceutical painkillers for back injury, and it just compounded and got really, really bad. Yeah.
Right. I could definitely understand, why you would want to, dedicate your life to something like this. As like most people that I've met in this industry, your personal experience with cannabis and cannabis's effect on yourself and the people around you had an influence in why you're so passionate about this. And fortunately, because cannabis is in this transition of becoming legal, becoming a legal market, there's a lot of opportunity to create careers out of your passion, your passion for something like this. And you're actually doing something like that to help people that have a passion, kind of like what we do. We try and help people who want to be in this industry get into it, right? So we, put on different events and things like that so people can network, meet each other, learn some things. But you actually have a company that helps people more directly find a job, in the industry, or find a career path, even more so. Because I've noticed that immediately, the people that I deal with at the different MMTCs change because they move up pretty quickly.
Real quick.
Because we're in this growth phase, especially in Florida right now. Now the time to get in to those MMTCs is now, and you guys are on top of that.
Oh yeah, the time is definitely now. Within a year, if you show up to work on time, do a good job, you're probably going to have moved up the ladder and the chain of command and gain some new responsibilities for sure.
So how are people? I know that you put on a job fair in Tampa. You're doing another one in Miami, right?
We are, but we postponed it.
Okay.
Yeah. We what were you going to ask me, what the format of it is or something? Or
well, I just wanted to see kind of how is it just straight up just going to a regular headhunter? I just send you the resume and then you're hey, I'm just going to go.
Good question. So at the job fair, we have vendors, and this instance, since it's the cannabis industry, the medical marijuana treatment centers, and they have their hiring teams there.
Okay.
They also provide us a list of jobs prior to it, and candidates could go to careerextracts.com and actually fill out a profile and apply for the jobs and be pre-screened. But if not, you show up to the career fair, you bring your resume, a few copies, and then you basically stand in line and wait for a chance to speak to the actual hiring manager. And then if they want to speak with you further and actually have an interview, we had little interview areas set up, and a lot of people were hired on the spot.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, a bunch.
Is that such a good feeling when you see
dude.
you help somebody get in there?
Yeah.
I know people come up to us all the time. Oh, I met at your event. And what's funny is when people show up and they're at the event representing one of the dispensaries because they came to an event, met somebody, and got a job at that dispensary, and now they're the community outreach person. That's happened a couple of times, and it's really kind of fulfilling. Those are the kinds of things that keep you, that make you realize that you're doing, you're kind of on the right path. As much as I believe in a right path. At least for me, there's more to it than just a job or just kind of building my career. I'm actually making a difference somewhere, and I know that you share that feeling, that you get that feeling when you make a difference in someone's life. Because I know I've talked to you about that. I've talked to you about after you've placed somebody and how it's changed their life, and they've been like, oh, thank you, I never thought that I could get in there, and that's got to be fulfilling.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. At the career fair, the first person I found out they got a job, I was standing outside and the door burst open and this girl came literally running out with like her resume in her hand up in the air saying, I got the job. And she ended up getting interviewed later that day as well. And that was really rewarding. Felt really good to see somebody be able to further pursue some of their dreams. And I had played a small role in that. I love seeing other people succeed. So the Career Extracts is something that is really special to me because of that. I like helping people get into the industry. It's free event, free to go to the website. We're just trying to help people get jobs and match them up with really good opportunities.
Yeah, and when you at these events, do you find that the majority of the people there are just looking for a job, or are there more people there that are specifically want to work in the cannabis industry and that's why they're there? Are they coming from other jobs, or are they just kind of looking for any job?
So we do see a wide range, but it's very heavy on people that want to work in the cannabis industry.
Right.
I mean, we had people drive 5, 6, 7 hours away to come to Tampa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that people get confused about is can you be a patient and still work for the dispensaries? I know we've gotten that question a lot. Do they drug test, or can you have THC in your system? Can you be a medical marijuana patient and work at the dispensaries? Are you allowed to? I know patients that work at the dispensary, so there has to be some way around it. But I'm not 100% clear.
Yeah. So it's up to the MMTC.
So it's the individual MMTC.
Yeah, it's up to the MMTC. And
Right.
many of them still do drug tests, but I haven't heard of anybody being fired for THC being present.
But does it, well, I guess it doesn't
And being
matter.
a patient isn't an issue either.
Right.
At most of them.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, and it's good to know from somebody such as yourself that actually deals directly with them.
I know for sure because I've helped a couple of patients get their medical, or not patients, but patient consultants get their medical marijuana recommendation. I always want to call them bud tenders, but I try and each MMTC has their own.
You can
name.
now that you can.
Yeah, now I can call them bud tenders.
It's not that term just kind of falls flat. Bud tender. It's So
Bud
2014. Budista.
Budrista.
Budista.
Yeah, and everything, all the organizations that I work with, from the for-profit to the nonprofits, are focused on giving back to the community and helping people out. Career Extracts, literally, that's the business model, is to help people get jobs. And
Well, a lot of people want to work in this industry, and this industry needs a lot of people with a lot of different skill sets. The dispensaries are growing. You were talking about bud tenders. I mean, that's just at one level, but they're growing at every level. I know that, we've seen a couple of things happen in the industry. We saw Harvest come in did Harvest by Verano Holdings, who owns Three Boys, who bought into the Three Boys license. We know that Cureleaf is in multiple states. Green Thumb Industries or Rise Cannabis is in multiple states, and these are a lot of these are public companies that have stockholders to answer to. So I could see why I could see why some companies might, drug test and things like that. But I can see a massive amount of growth, happening over the next couple of years. And for people that want to, make the leap into this industry, I know that every year it seems to be like the time to do it. I think this is the time, man. I mean, what do you think about the laws coming in the next year? I think we're going to see significant change both on the national level and on the state level, and that's going to completely overhaul the entire industry. It's going to throw things into upheaval for a little while, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a net benefit for everybody. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to see more progress this year, and the progress continues to speed up, it seems.
Well, I think on the national level, I think the president is going to pull out all the stops to try and win the next election in a landslide. I think he wants to win in a landslide just so he can say that he won in a landslide, and I think that he'll do anything to do that. And I think it's an easy, low-hanging fruit thing to do to get a bunch of people to vote for him that ordinarily wouldn't. And I think that there are enough special interests that are going to make significant amount of money that are already in his ear and in each other's pockets. That I think that you're going to see, movement on the federal level. How that's structured, kind of remains to be seen. But I tend to think it's going to be kind of a full-on kind of repeal of the Marijuana Act, so the Tax Act. So I think we're going to get rid of that. And once the banking opens up, that's going to change things significantly on the federal level, and then we have to worry about what the regulation is going to be in the state, and that's where the Regulate Florida comes in and becomes very important to get passed and get on the ballot this year or next year. I don't think many people understand why you still need an initiative like Regulate Florida, even though you might see federal legalization or decriminalization on the federal level. So why do people also need Regulate Florida?
Well, specifically to the issue with federal, like let's assume something happens federally like it did with hemp.
Right.
We'll use hemp as an example. It just basically established guidelines for states to create their own programs. And that's probably what's going to happen with cannabis as well. So if it becomes federally legal, so because of that, we have to have some type of state legislation. And there's no better option than Regulate Florida. Everyone would be able to grow. People will be able to open small businesses. There would be horizontal integration.
Right.
Dispensaries would not be able to be banned without people actually voting on it and selecting at the ballot box that they want to ban dispensaries in their town.
Right.
And there's a lot of other protections, Second Amendment protections. And we're going to get it done and probably on the ballot for 2020. And that's why Sunshine Cannabis is committed to donating 10% of all proceeds to Regulate Florida. And going to do that indefinitely, month after month after month, until Regulate Florida gets on the ballot and passed, and everyone can grow their own cannabis.
Well, that's what it really is about. It's about you need to get the money in there.
Mm-hmm.
Amendment 2 got on the ballot because John Morgan put money behind it. And we need, more money behind this initiative. Once some money started getting behind it, we started to see a lot more movement on these petitions. And that's kind of the name of the game. And the state has really set it up. I don't know if it's intentional or if it's on just the state level, but it's really set up to make it very difficult to get these petitions signed and submitted to the different boards of elections, the divisions of elections. So I mean it's 2019 and all of these things have to be hand filled out, right? You have to be filled out by hand, and then they have to be signed by hand in ink. There's no way to do it online.
Correct.
Right. And I could understand why they might want to try and avoid any kind of fraud, right? But at the same time, our elections are not, handwritten, and I think that it makes it more difficult for the will of the people to be heard, especially in this day and age, when you actually have to send people out physically to explain the laws to people, when most of their communication nowadays is done electronically. And I know that there are ways that we try and communicate with people so that they can get to a place where they can fill out one of these petitions. But by and large, we would be much better off, and we would see much more rapid movement on this if we were able to communicate with the masses like they're used to. And I really think it's deliberately set up that way. I don't see any reason why we can't have things docu-signed. I'm sure that, one of these companies that I signed, I've had people sign contracts for hundreds of thousands of dollars on DocuSign that are secured. There's no reason why a petition in a state can't go through one of these authorization companies, these online authorization companies. And the authorization company would probably do it at a minimal fee because they're going to probably market to all those customers that use their software in order to sign the petition in the first place. So, I really don't understand why the state's got to make it so hard for something like that to get on the ballot. And, the 60% vote, that we saw, that's the whole reason we had to wait an extra 2 years for medical cannabis in Florida. I mean, I know a lot of people weren't around the cannabis scene back then, but that was a crushing defeat. Not only because we lost, but we lost after more than half of Floridians voted for medical cannabis, and that was just like it just didn't make any sense. And I hope that moving forward, we're able to kind of get through more of this red tape, get through more of this bureaucratic bullshit that's made to keep the status quo. And I hope that we're able to kind of break through that easier this time around than it was the first time around.
Yeah, I think we're going to be able to. John Morgan has mentioned in tweets before that polls are around 80% for adult use in Florida. So, like you said, we need money to regulate Florida. That's how it has to get done, because it is next to impossible to just conduct a purely volunteer grassroots campaign in a state the size of Florida and collect the required number of petitions within a year and pay the state to certify them. Cost about $100,000 to get the million petitions, because you're going to lose 20 to 30%. You need 700 and something thousand. So you need to get about a million. 10 cents a petition. It's $100,000 just there, just to pay the state, just to certify them.
Right.
Then usually a couple bucks to $5 a petition to pay petitioners.
Now, you would think the MMTCs would be behind it, right?
Some are. TrueLeaf's donated a few times.
Right. I would think that they would all want to be behind something like this, because they would all stand to benefit, financially. So we were saying there's 200,000 patients, there's 21 million Floridians, and what, 20 million, potential cannabis customers, as opposed to, just 1% of that. So I would think anybody that sells cannabis or cannabis accessories or anything related to it would want full legalization or full, recreation.
It seems
adult use. Excuse me.
Oh yeah. Well, that would seem like a no-brainer, right? I think everyone would want to, and we have seen a lot of the MMTCs come on as petitioning partners and keep the petitions in the stores, and the Regulate Florida team just continues to, chip away, build relationships, forge ahead in the industry. And I have a feeling that after Supreme Court review is when we'll see some larger donations.
Yeah, I think so too. And we're going to have Mike on, Mike Minardi, who is the chairman of Regulate Florida. So he's just awfully busy, but he's going to...
Crazy busy.
He's going to make it down here probably next week to talk a little bit more about Regulate Florida and some of the other stuff that's going on. And I know something that he's going to want to talk about that I also want to talk to you about. You actually alluded to early on when we were talking about your podcast with our Commissioner of Agriculture.
Okay.
Where you talked about the cease and desist letters. And for people that don't know what we're talking about, what cease and desist letters are you talking about?
To the unlicensed and unregulated retailers that are selling hemp CBD products, or CBD hemp, or whatever the heck they call it. I don't know.
So, okay.
CBD products, basically hemp derived.
So a cease and desist letter was sent to them?
No cease and desist letters were sent. Just the news finally caught up to the fact that she had said it on my podcast in January on episode 72. But that isn't how they found out. I don't think it was through the podcast, but I broke it there way before. They found out, they published some stuff, and then Commissioner Freed came back on my podcast and cleared the air about the issue. They will only be, it sounds like they're only going to be issuing cease and desist after they get the legislation done for the hemp, rules put in place, and then they'll be sending them out to people that don't comply with the rules.
Okay, so they're going to put the rules out first.
Yeah.
And then wait for people to comply to the rules.
Yeah, and of course, any bad actors that they find out there, they're going to shut down. So, like, people that are selling products that have THC in them, or
right,
because
we hear stories of places getting raided and stuff getting seized.
Mm-hmm.
And I never hear really the full. Well, sometimes I hear the full story, but by and large, I don't hear the full story. And usually, there's something like they tested positive for THC, or something else was going on at the shop, and they're not usually busting them for just legal hemp products.
Yeah, that's correct. That's usually the case. And they go after a lot of the companies that are selling flour, because a lot of that flour it's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the retailers are being sold the flower from the farm, and the farm COA, like let's use Oregon for instance, when they run the analytical testing, they run it on the entire biomass.
Mm-hmm.
But then they use that COA and send it off with just the tops and the flowers.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
So I know some stores, at least the few that I know the owners are testing everything that comes in themselves.
And that's what that's what the good ones should do, and you won't have any issues
Yeah.
because you won't have bad products on yourself.
Yeah.
Even though in Florida right now, all CBD everything is illegal. Cannabis and all its derivatives have to be sold by MMTCs, produced and sold by MMTCs in the state of Florida.
And yet, you know, there's going to be places like CVS that are going to be selling it.
Correct.
And you can buy it in different markets. You can buy it in Nutrition Smart. You can buy it in different health food stores.
Yep.
And these aren't mom and pop shops. You know, these are large chains. I've seen CBD products in Vitamin Shop. Vitamin Shop is a national chain. I'm probably an international chain for all I know. So how is that possible?
Just there's nobody enforcing anything. And I think it's because there is the gray area with the state and federal law. The state is going to have to catch up to the federal law, which is why there have been the hemp bills filed, and we'll get a piece of hemp legislation and then rules put into place. And Representative Carrie Pigman said at the legislative panel at the FMCC that, you know, there just has to be a change in the Controlled Substances Act to change the definition basically and designate it by the cultivar at the cultivar level, because that's what hemp is basically any cultivars that produce less than 0.3% THC.